Welcome back to Coding Goblin. In this video, we are going to run through all of the tools that we're going to need to develop our Laravel web app on our local machine. So let's just get straight into it. We're going to be using the Laravel docs a lot. So I'm going to put the links to all of these websites in the description or somewhere on the page so you can have a look for yourself. Don't get too bogged down in going through every bit of detail, but just be aware of them because we're going to be referencing them a lot in this course. So Laravel, this is the obvious first place to start. The documentation has all the information that we're going to need to get our web app live, but we're obviously going to need some other tools as well. So I'm just going to go through all the tools so we're all on the same page. You don't have to use the exact tools I'm using, so some are going to be specific. I'm doing this on a MacBook, so there'll be equivalents for Windows, okay? But pretty much everything is going to be the same. So the first thing I want to show you is Visual Studio Code. This is essentially our text editor or our IDE. It's where we're going to be actually coding, writing our code, and all that fun stuff. So that's where we're going to be spending most of our time. I highly recommend you use this. It's completely free to use. There are obviously other text editors, other IDEs out there, but Visual Studio Code is probably the most popular one. Don't quote me on that. I think it is the most popular one, and it's very good and it's simple to use. So I recommend you get that. So download whichever version you need for your specific machine. Might be the same, but if it's Apple, it'll be Apple. If it's Windows, it'll be Windows. So that's what we're going to need. So Visual Studio Code. The next thing you're going to need is MAMP, or I think it's XAMPP on Windows, but it's the same thing. So this is our local server. So this allows us to have MySQL running on our local machine, so database. So this is very important. We'll be using this, but this is one of those things where we set it up and then it runs in the background and we don't actually need to worry too much about it once it's set up. So again, I'll put the link to this in the description or somewhere on the page, and you go to that website and download the appropriate version that you need and install it. The next thing we're going to need, and this I will go over in more detail in the next video, but is going to be Laravel Jetstream. So this is an official package from Laravel, and what it essentially does is it allows us to get up and running a lot quicker. So it has a lot of the boilerplate code that we would have to write ourselves, such as authentication and API tokens, if we were going to build an app that needed API tokens, and all that sort of stuff that comes as standard with a web application is built in. And it's done properly and we don't need to worry about it. So we're going to be using that. So it gives us a really solid starting point and it actually allows us to build so much faster. So as I said, in the next video, we will be going over this and actually installing it. But I just wanted to show you this website. Again, link will be in the description. The next thing is Inertia.js. So this ties in with Laravel Jetstream. This basically links our front end, which will be, in our case, Vue.js, to our back end, which will be our Laravel web application. But it's all linked together nicely via Inertia.js. So it handles all the routing and it just makes our life a lot easier. So just so you're aware, this isn't me introducing random tools and showing you how I do it. This is kind of an officially tied in way of using Laravel. This isn't just some guy showing you some hack. Inertia.js with Laravel and Vue is a official way of doing things. It's on the Laravel website. It's not a hacky way. So don't be worried thinking, oh, I'm learning some really niche way of doing things. This is a very popular way of doing things. So this is how you will use Laravel if you're using it with Vue.js typically. So this basically ties it together nicely. So there are different ways of doing it. You can have a completely separate Laravel API and then a separate front end on any framework or any technology, and then you can send API requests, or you can do it this way, which is in my opinion, much better, but it ties the front end and the back end together. So it keeps them together, they're not separate. But it makes things a lot more simple. And more importantly, it allows you to build with speed, rapidly. And that's what we're all about. We want to get our web apps live as soon as possible, because we don't want to spend months and years faffing around, okay? We want to just get on with it. And that's the purpose of this course, is to show you how to do stuff in Laravel, but how to do it quickly, how to get stuff done. Don't get bogged down, okay? Don't waste months of your life. So that's what Inertia.js does. It's not too much of a big thing to learn. You don't need to worry about it, but I'm gonna go over everything in this course. So don't stress, all right? Just relax. Am I making you feel relaxed or stressed? Let me know. The next thing we're going to be using heavily is Tailwind CSS. You may be familiar with Tailwind CSS, you may not be familiar, but essentially it's a utility library that allows us to get loads done with CSS, so styling our web application, and it makes it really easy to do. It's far simpler than if we were just using plain CSS, and you're going to pick it up really quickly if you're not already familiar with it. And if you are already familiar with it, great, because you already know how powerful it is. And you know, some people have a problem with Tailwind CSS because they think it's like a whole new thing they have to learn. But at the end of the day, if you look at any sort of coding job, web development job, they don't even put CSS anymore as a requirement. They put Tailwind CSS. So it's essentially, it is CSS. So yeah, argue with me on that one, but it's built into Laravel, into Jetstream, so it makes sense to use it. It's used everywhere. You're gonna have to get used to it, and once you do, it's amazing. So that's what we're gonna be using predominantly. There may be bits and pieces that we come across along the way, but this is the gist of what we're gonna be doing. So what I want you to do is download all of those things: Visual Studio Code, MAMP or XAMPP. I'll put the links to both of those. So XAMPP if you're using Windows, MAMP if you're using Mac. Then the rest of it, we're going to go over it in the next video. So it's actually only those two things. So once you've downloaded those, you're going to be left with this for MAMP once you've installed it as well. And you just want to click Start, which will be up here. And then you want to click Web Start. And what that's going to do is bring you to this page. And then from here, you're going to see MySQL. And you want to click phpMyAdmin. And that is going to bring up your, well, phpMyAdmin, which is going to show all your databases, or it's going to allow you to create databases. So let's just click on that now. And you're going to see what that is. You're going to see all my existing databases. Well, you're not going to see them because I'm going to blur them out, but this is what it looks like. And once you've downloaded Visual Studio Code, you're also going to be left with something like this once you open it up. So hopefully this looks familiar to you. If it doesn't look familiar to you, no worries. You're going to get very familiar with it. In the next video, we'll get on with actually doing some stuff. See you there.